Although the purpose
Although
and
the purpose
techniques
and
were often
techniques were
magical,
often magical,
alchemy was, in many ways, the predecessor of the modern science of chemistry. The fundamental premise of alchemy derived from the best philosophical dogma and scientific practice of the time, and the majority of educated persons between 1400 and 1600 believed that alchemy had great merit. The earliest authentic works on European alchemy are those of the English monk Roger Bacon and the German philosopher Saint Albertus Magnus. In their treatises, they maintained that gold was the perfect metal, and that inferior metals such as lead and mercury were removed by various degrees of imperfection from gold. They further asserted that these base metals could be transmuted to gold by blending them with a substance more perfect. This elusive substance was referred to as the philosopher's stone. The process was called transmutation. Most of the early alchemists were artisans who were accustomed to keeping trade secrets and often resorted to cryptic terminology to record the progress of their work. The term sun was used for gold, moon for silver, and the five known planets for the base metals. This convention of substituting symbolic language attracted some mystical philosophers who compared the search for the perfect metal with the struggle of humankind for the perfection of the soul. The philosophers began to use the artisans' terms in the mystical literature that they produced. Thus, by the 14th century, alchemy had developed two distinct groups of practitioners, the laboratory alchemists and the literary alchemists. Both groups of alchemists continued to work throughout the history of alchemy, but of course, it was the literary alchemist who was more likely to produce a written record. Therefore, much of what is known about the science of alchemy is derived from philosophers rather than from the alchemists who labored in laboratories. Despite centuries of experimentation, laboratory alchemists failed to produce gold from other materials. However, they gained wide knowledge of chemical substances, discovered chemical properties, and invented many of the tools and techniques that are used by chemists today. Many laboratory chemists earnestly devoted themselves to the scientific discovery of new compounds and reactions, and therefore must be considered legitimate forefathers of modern chemistry. They continued to call themselves alchemists, but they were becoming true chemists.
Few have influenced the development of American English to the extent that Noah Webster did. After a short career in law, he turned to teaching, but he discovered how inadequate the available school books were for the children of a new and independent nation. In response to the need for truly American textbooks, Webster published a Grammatical Institute of the English Language, a 3-volume work that consisted of a speller, a grammar, and a reader. The first volume, which was generally known as the American Spelling Book, was so popular that eventually it sold more than 80 million copies and provided him with a considerable income for the rest of his life. Can you imagine that? Anyway, in 1807, Noah Webster began his greatest work, an American dictionary of the English language. In preparing the manuscript, he devoted 10 years to the study of English and its relationship to other languages, and 7 more years to the writing itself. Published in 2 volumes in 1828, an American dictionary of the English language has become a recognized authority for usage in the United States. Webster's purpose in writing it was to demonstrate that the American language was developing distinct meanings, pronunciations, and spellings from those of British English. He's responsible for advancing many of the simplified spelling forms that distinguish American English from British. Webster was the first author to gain copyright protection in the United States by being awarded a copyright for the American Spelling Book, and he continued to lobby over the next 50 years for the protection of intellectual properties, that is, for authors' rights. By the time that Webster brought out the second edition of his dictionary, which included 70,000 entries instead of the original 38,000, the name Webster had become synonymous with American dictionaries. It was this second edition that served as the basis for the many revisions that have been produced by others, ironically, under the uncopyrighted
name.